I'm reminded of a project that we did last year up in the Lake Tahoe Basin, a prosperity plan working with Norma, Supervisor Santiago, Brent Smith, and others. The comment is an all-volunteer army. So our keywords here are collaboration, partnerships, outcome, being outcome-driven, but really the trust building and the commitment that everybody's had is really, these are the keystones of the consortia. I also now we're going to start with the response panel, which is the blended consortia. Now, Sunny always says she's frugal and not cheap. What she means is this is the greatest example of leverage I've ever seen with the little $5,000 grant from CETF. We have the whole spectrum of consortia. The first 3 consortia have been operating actually for a few years. So Dejanay Shelton from the Great Valley Center is going to step in for Christine Nutting, who had to leave from the San Joaquin Partnership. But we're going to start with Tara. And could you, in the interest of time, just all give us your one main statement of what you take from everything that you've heard today? Thank you.
I will be brief. Again, my name is Tara Thronson with Valley Vision. We're based in Sacramento, and we totally agree with collaboration. That's the business we do. We serve as facilitators and generate collaborations that benefit the 6-county Sacramento region. And we've done this in other areas. Clean, green technology, healthcare. We've brought people to the table that don't normally talk to each other. And then after a while, this magic happens. They build trust, and then things happen. And sometimes I think, really, let's do something. Let's not sit around a table. But really, sitting around the table, it turns into action, and we get things done. People want to be on our board because they say, you actually do things. So I don't know what's going to happen, but we all know that something happens, and it's good. I also want to say for broadband, we feel like the time is right. We did this initial scoping study, and we thought, okay, we'll do this, and we'll be done with broadband. But our eyes were opened, and we said, whoa, this is huge. This is huge for equity issues. It's huge for the environment. It's huge for our economy, and it's fundamental. And in addition to the time being right and everyone getting it, and everyone says, hey, I want in, but I'll come back to my challenge in a moment. They want in, but also we are doing a new jobs initiative in the region. And when I went through and looked at, when we're looking at all the clusters that we're focusing on in the Sacramento region to bring more jobs and investment, broadband is the underlying foundation. So my boss, the CEO, keeps saying, Tara, we're connecting these 2 projects because there's a linkage, and we're going to make sure we leverage anything we do for broadband to make it last to go even further. But I just wanted to briefly share a few challenges that I'm feeling and seeing. I, too, sent out an email. People were saying, yes, yes, I want to be part of it. But I'll tell you, they are busy, and it's sometimes like pulling teeth to get people to say, just send me your electronic signature and I'll make this so easy for you, or come to a meeting. So that's one of the challenges we're finding is, and I wish, Brent, I had your experience of having all the electeds already on my board. That would make it a lot easier. So that's one of the challenges we're having. They get it, but they don't have time. And then we over here are a blend of rural and urban. And I hear the rural side, and that's really, really important, and we are focused on that. But I also hear the urban center saying, I mean, there are kids growing up in these urban centers that aren't understanding the relevance or don't have that access at home, and there's so many things. And to me, this is building our jobs and our workforce to be competitive in the future. So I feel like I'm always playing that role of juggling the 2. And I would not be willing to say which one's weighs more than the other, but they're both really important, and so we're always doing that balancing act.
Thank you, Tara. Arlene Krebs from the Central Coast Broadband Consortium. The issues and challenges that our colleagues on that side of the table and Tara just raised are common to each of us, to every one of the regional consortia. But one of the phrases that stands out is the phrase anchor institutions that we all had to respond to when we wrote those ARA grants. But what we really represent are the anchor institutions that support each of our individual work as part of regional broadband consortia. Thousands and thousands of hours of volunteer work that we've assumed as part of our normal job or employment responsibilities. And every one of my colleagues here from the Central Coast Broadband Consortium has that anchor institution behind him or her to support this. So that's a #1 and totally crucial key priority to support regional consortia. And then secondly, I thought of, as our colleagues here were talking, about T to the 4th power. And the 4 T's are trust. It's developing trust among your colleagues who are spearheading the regional consortia and tapping into each one of our areas of expertise when we agree or disagree or have arguments or solve issues. The basic trust is that we're all working towards a common goal. The second T is for teamwork, which each of our colleagues here has mentioned, which is we mustn't lose sight of the prize. The third is transparency. We have to be as open and inclusive and collaborative amongst ourselves as regional consortia and with all of the institutions, all of the community organizations, all of the nonprofits that we are working for and whose support we depend on. And the fourth is traction. All of these years and months, days of work to achieve our goal of equity in broadband deployment, access, and adoption, we have to keep showing that there are some gains, that we have achieved certain ones of our goals, certainly sending out emails on the part of the Central Coast Broadband Consortia that in a year and a half we put in 3 ARA applications, 2 CAS applications, and showing the diligency that we apply and some of the successes we achieve. So it's more at the meta level of understanding how each of us contributes to the significance and the success of a regional broadband consortium. Thank you.
I'm Dejanay Shelton. I'm the Executive Director for the Great Valley Center, and I'm part of the San Joaquin Valley Regional Broadband Consortium with the California Partnership for the San Joaquin Valley. And I come from an organization, as you've heard from Sunny, where Carol Whiteside really had the opportunity to help us to understand collaboration and the need for people to really work together in a way that can bring about change. And so she was speaking about this in a time when not everyone was really understanding why you needed to collaborate with your neighbors, why what you do in your neighborhood, what you're doing in your county, is going to affect the county next to you. So now, no matter what you're doing, if you don't make a change, if you don't reach across the aisle, and if you don't talk to people who may be different, have different ideas, may not quite understand what you're trying to do, and get them to understand that we do have similarities and we can work together, that change will never come about. And so that's something that we've done and always have done, and that's why we created this partnership so that we can, in a large area, because if you're trying to get from Kern to Stockton, it's going to take you about 3.5 hours. We need people to be able to come together and understand that we're going to reach across those aisles, we're going to talk with you, and we're going to find ways for us to be able to work together. So collaboration is something that I find really important, and really also making sure that you have that trust and that people believe that they can talk to you about the different issues that are going on within their communities. Some of the challenges that we're facing are some of the same things that you've all talked about. Distance continues to be a major challenge for many of us. Adoption continues to be a challenge, as many people have said. On one side of the street you will have access, on another side you won't. And a lot of the community members really want to be a part of this technology but don't have the opportunity to. And so we're hoping by having different meetings in different places within the San Joaquin Valley that people will have the opportunity to really come out, be a part of it. We'll be able to use technology in these meetings, and we'll be able to get as many people at the table to discuss our issues and really try to do some changes within our community.
I'm Diana Rodriguez, and I'm here with the Los Angeles County Regional Broadband Consortia. And so I keep on hearing that word collaboration, from everyone around here, and so I won't beat it to death. But what I'll say is that for us, what we've really learned from this whole process is to bring the right players to the table, to bring people who are like-minded, who, in terms of agencies that are coming together and who are looking to bridge that digital divide, but who are also diverse in the types of services that they provide. And I think that that's a way that that's one of the ways in which we've been able to be successful is to bring together these different groups of people who provide these different services and to thread them all together to provide them for a larger area. So, where we would normally be isolated in our regions, San Fernando Valley being very far away from, some of the regions out in the south and the gateway cities, if any of you are familiar with Los Angeles County. It's really about, bringing those groups together and leveraging the resources and services that we provide. And so, by bringing those players together and having everyone, the right people around the table, then you also gain a lot of excitement and a lot of support. And therefore, we'd be able to go out and kind of reach out and bring in other people and of course, kind of spread the types of services that we're providing to our communities.
Well, I'm with the Inland Empire Regional Consortium. My name is Lori Panzino-Tillery, and I have to tell you that I am now thinking, Trish, what the hell did you get me into? Well, stand up, I'm sorry. We are newbies to this and just starting our consortium, and we're looking at each other thinking we have 30,000 square miles, and as Glenda pointed out, there are states, we could probably put a dozen states between the two counties. So size does matter. We will have over 50 cities to deal with in 2 counties. I mean, that in and of itself is, we're looking at each other going exactly what I said, what the hell were we thinking? So I think what we're going to have to do is kind of rethink how we approach our challenge by listening to all of you. And I wish I could see everybody face to face, but we're talking about, it would take us more than 8 hours to drive from one end of the county to the farther end of the county. That's further than driving to Fresno from Kern County. So just thought I'd point that out. So in talking about it, I think what we're going to have to do is, eat the elephant one bite at a time and start small and work bigger. And I really appreciate what you've said today and what advice you're giving us, because now we're scared to death. So thanks so much. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Thank you so much. And we will, we'll be calling a lot of you for help and advice, because we know we're not going to be able to do this by ourselves. Thank you.
We're there for you, Laura.
Yeah, sure.
By the way, I live way far away from San Bernardino.
I know. And you'll probably stay far away.
Hi, I'm Meredith Dowling with the San Diego Imperial Regional Consortium.
Stand up. They yelled at me. Stand up.
And as I mentioned before, the San Diego County had been very active in the digital divide issues and initiatives in the late 90s, early 2000s. I was very active with that, with the initiative at that time. I did leave for Texas for a while. Sorry, I'm back now. And started with the EDC and was contacted by Jeff and some other folks about some of the issues around digital divide and the broadband consortia, and that the EDC had been looking at this and been part of it for the last couple of years. The EDC also partners with Imperial County on a number of other federal and other grants and other programs as far as job development strategy. So I was excited to jump back in, and what we found was there was all the same faces at the table that had been there 10 years ago. There's a number of initiatives that are going on throughout the region. We have made some very good strides. They just have been being done separately. So the initiatives are sort of going, and people are definitely collaborating and reaching out to each other for advice, but there's definitely not a unit that's pulling everyone together. I think what we were excited about with this process was that if there was a grant funding around the idea of a consortia, and there would be a more formal mechanism for everybody to come to the table. We did have people come to the meetings. We did have folks writing the letters. People are still plugging away, implementing digital divide solutions all around both counties. But it would be very helpful to have a united front and something, not just the grant on the grant funding side from the state, but the fact that there's all these other regional consortias really, I think, says a lot. And for our combined county area in Southern California and Imperial, I think that would be great. So we've gotten some good ideas on some other things that we can add to our grant and to our program of work, and look forward to any other suggestions you all have. Thank you.
Thank you. Linda Best with the East Bay Broadband Consortium, and like the Inland Empire, we're one of the newbies. So for me, it's been extremely helpful to be here today and hear the lessons learned from all of you. So this has been terrific. I have two takeaways, I think, from the comments that I've heard. The first is collaboration, and several of the people have already spoken very eloquently to that. So I won't say too much further, except that I think we too often operate in silos, and that just isn't a way to be productive and efficient in achieving results. So I think the whole spirit of collaboration, bringing stakeholders together, allows us to be much more effective and to leverage resources. And the other takeaway I have is the emphasis on outcomes. It's really important that we be accountable for the dollars that are being invested in these efforts. And we can only do that by being able to measure the outcomes that we achieve. And it's not only important for the accountability aspect, but also if we want it to be a sustainable effort, it's really important to show progress so that the people who are with us in this effort continue their buy-in, continue to work together, and allow us to leverage more resources. So I think that from the standpoint of our consortium, that those will be two very important cornerstones that we'll be working on.
Thank you so much, Linda. And I just want to compliment and acknowledge everybody today who's here, because there's a tremendous amount of creativity and partnership and commitment in this room. And please give all of our speakers and participants a hand. Thank you. And I think the PUC is going to find that they've made a great investment. So we'll be back to report on our success and outcomes and ask you for your support as we go through. Sunny, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Trish, so much for doing the facilitation. All of you, these were 13 regions. You just went through the state. I mean, California is a big state, as I've said over and over again. But you hear the leaders put that into really a manageable approach of the regions. Yes, some are really big, and but you are just as big as your regions. And the ability to lead is what we're banking on and investing in. I think it's been amazing, quite honestly, to see how far this has come. Trish and I have been doing a lot of this work. I've learned so much from her over the years. We've done it for decades, and to see this kind of coalescing of leadership in the region, in regions statewide, is definitely tipping the balance now. We've really come to a new plateau. And I think it has been very enheartening to see the way the California Public Utilities Commission has embraced this. They're celebrating their 100th anniversary, and I dare say, like in the 99th year, they didn't think that the 100th would be facing all of you. But they have done so with a great spirit. I'm actually going to call upon my colleague Gladys Papalotic to introduce the Public Utilities Commission, because Gladys wasn't even in the room when we went around and did self-introductions. But all of you in the regions know Gladys. She has had the responsibility of just getting it done, figuring out how to bring everyone together. She does the 8 a.m. Friday weekly calls with all of you. And she said, what are we going to do on December 1st and 2nd? And this was like 45 days ago. So Gladys has also pulled all of this together. I just wanted to thank her and acknowledge her and have her. Yay, Gladys. I also love to call on Gladys because, you know, the theme is, she hates it, and the theme is leadership. And I have not accepted from Gladys that she wanted to decline being a leader. I've said, no, everybody is. And she always steps up to the plate to get it done. So, leader, Gladys Papalotic.
Thank you, Sunny. Thank you, thank you. Thank you all. Too kind. So we have the CASF staff here from the CPUC. They've been fantastic. They've learned a lot along with all of us. And so I've had the pleasure of meeting each one of them. They've administered the CASF fund for about 3 years now. 3 years. The infrastructure fund primarily, and this year they're extending it out to the infrastructure loan and regional consortia fund. And so they've now met, they're looking very much forward to meeting each one of you individually as the regional consortia leaders, and then meeting the stakeholders that you've brought with you. So I know Angel has worked on the infrastructure piece, and this year, starting this past, God, how many months has it been? 3 or 4 months now? She's taking the lead on the regional consortia piece, and so she, along with Zenaida and Anna Marie, I know, as a team, have been reviewing very intensely the proposals submitted by the 15 proposals submitted to the regional consortia piece, and have now, just this morning, have some news to share with you. So I'll hand it over to Angel Assam.
Well, I'm really very, very happy to be here to meet so many of you who I've spoken with. Well, some that I've met new recently, and others with whom I've worked on the grant program. Besides myself, we have the rest of the CASF team here present, so hopefully you'll be able to meet us at the conclusion of this event today. First of all, I wanted to give you an update on where we are with the consortia account. So let's go through it and begin. Okay, just as a review, the consortia was established through Senate Bill 1040, and the legislation funded 3 new accounts, or additional $100 million for the grant account that we've got, the $10 million for the new rural and urban regional broadband consortia account, and an additional $15 million for a revolving loan account. The consortia account, as you know, is going to fund the cost of broadband deployment activities other than the capital cost of facilities, and the Commission decisions in June and July, as you're familiar with, they set forth the guidelines to implement the consortia account, which I am now calling the Consortia Grant Program. So I'll refer to it as that. So as of December 2011, today, we had some really great news. And I think some of you were present at the Commission meeting today. It's the alternate resolution was approved by our commissioners, and very enthusiastically for any of you who weren't there. They're very supportive. So what that resolution approved was it's approving 7 consortia, the first year budgets, year 1 budgets, and a 3-year budget allowance for 7 of the 14. For these 7, I'm going to refer to you all as like the first group. You know who you are. By December 16th, we'd like to have your revised work plans in. And I have spoken or written email to the 14 separately. So the first 7 understand that you're in the queue to respond to the revisions of the work plans. And then the second group, I'll speak to that in the next slide, okay? So as the new consortia grantees, besides those work plans with the adjustments that we've all discussed with you in the recent week, we want you to send in those consent forms signed and return those to us with the work plan so we can complete the process for you all. And the consent form is the attachment H that was part of the decision. And then as soon as we get through reviewing your revisions and have those consent forms, then we will I'll be talking to you each individually to discuss the start date. And we do want to do this as soon as we can. We want to be able to have you up and running, funded by January. I want to keep on a nice track, a fast track to keep everything rolling out. Now for the second group, I haven't spent any lengthy time talking with you all, but let me bring you up to speed right now. We're going to set, or I'm going to set up conference calls, times for either the 7th or the 8th, when we can talk about your work plans. Generally, I think I've spoken to many of you about what we're looking at. We're asking to have more tangible deliverables in the work plans. Everything so far is looking very good, but we want to be able to get some deliverables, some outcomes clarified. And we're expecting, because of the resolution that was signed today, or that was approved today, that those work plans are targeted to be into us by December 31. So we're going to talk to you next week, give you some direction, be specific. We'll be specific about what we're looking for, and then you can revise your work plans and get them into us. With that being said, once those are cleared, reviewed with us, we expect that we could issue a draft resolution sometime in mid-January. So this is going to turn around very quickly. So we really need clean work plans ready to go so that we can turn this around, get the resolution released, and then hopefully for the February 16th commission meeting, we can present it to the commissioners for their consideration and approval. If everything goes smoothly and we meet that deadline and the commissioners approve that second batch and the budget allowances, then we're thinking that March will be around the start time that we can get you funded. And of course, the consent forms will need to be in with the revisions as well. Okay? So those were the things that you all need to take care of in order for us to fund you and continue this good work that CETF has started with you. Internally, with some of the things that I'm looking at with my management, is how to administer the program internally and to make information about your successes and achievements available, and to kind of do a little PR about them. So one of the ways we're going to do that is, as you are probably aware, we have a web page for the Consortia grant account, and a couple of the things that we're thinking about putting up there are the final Consortia work plans, so that you can all see them clearly. Anybody else who wants to take a look at our website and wants more information about the Consortia, they can find those there. We want to include hyperlinks to any of your websites or web pages that you may have available that would give somebody from the public some additional information on how to contact you or to find out specifically what some of the things are that are going on in your regions. Another thing is perhaps posting public meeting schedules that you may have planned and keeping that information up to date, and that's something that we can do within the division. So it's pretty user-friendly, so I can take down old things, put up new schedules, and such. Then the next thing that I'll be looking into doing is planning some regular check-in meetings with each regional consortia. And I guess CETF had Friday meetings. So this isn't anything that's new for you. So this will be a way for us to share some information about things that are going on, what you might have planned that's new, anything that's come up that's a surprise that we need to know about, and such. So that's something that I'll be working on pretty quickly. In addition, establishing a reimbursement process. Before too long, you're going to want to get some repayments. So we want to have that settled, set up, and ready to go so that we can expedite reimbursements to you as they should come in. Also planning for the receipt and review of quarterly progress reports, which each consortia is responsible to submit to us with a reimbursement request. For my part, I need to find a schedule or set a schedule about coming out and visiting with you occasionally, which would be which would be nice to come out and see your areas, meet other people, stakeholders, maybe attend a regional meeting that you might have. So that'll keep me connected with each of your groups, and also to get some information about how things are going and what you're doing out there in the field. And then another thing to keep in mind that we're going to be expecting is around October 1, your year 2 work plans and budgets will be due to the commission, to me. And that's something that's kind of maybe summertime that you'll be thinking about revising, getting ready for those. And then the annual community summit, similar to what you're doing today, a place where you can collaborate and share information with one another, see each other, share your successes and maybe the obstacles that you've encountered. So that's something else that I'll be working on planning and looking forward to. And maybe I'll tap Gladys for ideas. And just as a review, most of you have been together a very long time, and you have done a tremendous amount of work in your regions. You know what's out there, what you need to do, what you've been able to accomplish. And likewise with the commission, we want to know how you're doing. And in order to be accountable for the funding, we want to make sure that we're setting some good performance metrics, and that we understand what your outcomes are, and that you are attaining some concrete results. So we want to know that, or you can expect that we will expect to hear from you about some of the things that you're actually accomplishing. And one way of doing that is a self-evaluation as an element. We found that a couple of the consortia have come in noting in their work plans that they intend to do a self-evaluation after the completion of the 3rd year. But maybe doing it every year would be good, a good tool for us to make sure that you're reaching your goals, that you're reaching your outcomes that you've planned during the year for those activities. And we want to remind you too, if things happen on the outside, we're transitioning from CETF into the CPUC. So if there are issues, we want you to know that Communications Division is the main point of contact for all of you who are approved for the funding. And that I want to be in the loop if things come up, if you're having problems or issues, because we could help you. And that's what we want to do. We want to be here to help you and achieve the success that you want in your regions. And this is just a reminder page that we have the web page under the communications tab for the Consortia Grant Account Program. It has some general information there now, and that's exactly where we're going to be putting some more specific information about your activities for the near future. And there's my contact information. So I think that half of you that I've known through the grant program have not been shy about contacting me. So please do, and keep me abreast of how things are going, and I will certainly be in touch with you periodically, regularly, but periodically. And we thank you very much for having us here, and Sunny for hosting this for us, and look forward to working with all of you very soon.
Thank you so much, Angel. Let's have all of the PUC team that's here stand up. Come on, staff, stand up. Zenaida, yes, Jack Lutza, the whole team. Give them a round of applause. we thank you, and we're going to be honoring. You can sit down now if you want, because I'm gonna call on you later, Jack, at the reception. They're all going to be here at the reception because we're honoring regional leaders and the PUC. So we're going to look forward to being able to have you interact. I just wanted, because they were at a commission meeting, for you to be able to see them today, and there's a lot of them as a team, so you can all take one at a time and talk with them. We've also had two additional directors of CETF join us, and Jim Kirkland was in the room. He may be, there he is, and Jim is going to kick off tomorrow. Jim actually has chaired the Rural Infrastructure Project or Committee for CETF, and he just flew in, so he's going to kick off tomorrow. But then we also have the president of the California Public Utilities Commission, who also is the chairman of CETF, join us today. Of course, he was at the meeting and making the votes that you all are celebrating, and he will be addressing everybody tonight and conducting the program, but the Honorable Michael Peavy is here with us. A founding director who is heading up, who's no longer a director, but is heading up Alameda Connect, Get Connected in Oakland, Get Connected, and I'm partnered with James Nixon, is also here and will be at the reception, but I just want to acknowledge Joe Gross is here. Thanks, Joe. Thank you. And now the capstone of today, before we go to the reception, is actually one of our seed capital investors. And I like to talk about it in terms of seed capital and investment and return on investment, because all of you are here because we have actually the commitment of Verizon and AT&T to put $60 million into establishing the California Emerging Technology Fund. It wasn't perhaps the first idea they had when they brought forward the merger proposal to the PUC, but through the negotiation process, it became part of the public benefit finding and the investment that Verizon is putting back into California when they acquired MCI in 2005. And so we're delighted that Tim McCallion, who heads up Verizon in California, is here today. In fact, Tim comes and visits every year with us. We want to check in. I see you now have a couple of other people. Kurt Rasmussen is here from Verizon. He's also on our board of expert advisors now. And I just met Eric Reed, right? So Eric Reed came in from DC. So we've got 3 Verizon folks here. And Tim's going to bring us home tonight. So with that, I want to tell you my commitment to Tim and also to AT&T is that at the end of the 10 years, when we've spent their $60 million, we hope that they will be able to say that we did as well, if not better, with their money than they could have on their own. Because if we can't say that, or Tim won't, you can't conclude that, then this wasn't the kind of investment in bridging the digital divide, closing the digital divide that we hoped it would be. The reason that might be possible, because Verizon is a lot better in handling money than most entities or even entities with a public purpose, is because of the collaboration that can happen, of organizations, public and private, coming together that is harder for one company to convene. And so that's the if you will, the hypothesis of why your involvement is so important, why we banked first and foremost investing on regional leadership. And with that, Tim, we really appreciate you always being here. We want you to watch your investment. We want your guidance and counsel. And we would look forward to continuing a partnership with Verizon into the future. We've asked him to come talk with you, give you an update on Verizon and his perspective on what's happened in California, where we've come in the last 5 years, and where we're going. Ladies and gentlemen, Tim McCallion.
Thank you, Sunny, and good evening, everyone. Well, the good news is that it is 5:40. Sunny had me on the agenda for 30 minutes, but I will guarantee you that you'll be out of here in time for cocktails at 6 o'clock. So that's my pledge to you. But let me start off by congratulating all of the staff and the board members of CETF on what a great job they've done over the last 5 years in really investing that money and bringing value. So congratulations. And I say that as someone, Sunny said, who had to make a very significant investment in CETF. But I also congratulate the Public Utilities Commission for coming up with a very innovative way of having a public benefit come out of a merger. As I've said before, so I'm not going to deny it, I'm not real fond of the requirement that we actually have to put money up when we go through these big mergers. But that's what the law is, that's what we have to do. What I give the PUC credit for, especially President Peavy and former Commissioner Kennedy, was coming up with a really innovative way to leverage that public benefit so there was good and ongoing good coming out of it, rather than perhaps giving customers a couple pennies a month back on their bill, which really wouldn't have provided an ongoing benefit. So I thought it was a great innovative idea. But it's only innovative if something is done with it, and I think the expansion of broadband here in California, closing the digital divide, what's been done and what's going to be done, is really a very tangible, ongoing benefit. When we look at technology, I think just, if we think about how technology's changed over the last few years, maybe I can give you just a little bit of thought and a little bit of guidance as to where CETF and where the private-public partnerships ought to think about going in the future. I think it's really important to solve problems based upon the future, and not to solve problems and not to deal with issues by looking in the rearview mirror. And let me just talk about that a little bit. When CETF was formed, really when we thought about broadband and accessing the internet, we were looking mostly at wired services. DSL, cable modem, and then Verizon was coming out with Fios right about that period of time. What's happening today is those are still extremely important services, but most people access the internet on wireless devices today. And there was recently a Pew Research study that said that's especially true for young people, it's especially true for minorities. So the world has really changed, but that was not the case when CETF was formed and when you started on your mission. And when we started doing the original broadband mapping, which was done by CETF and others, the Public Utility Commission, when that was done, the focus was all on what was the broadband availability on a wired basis, and there was actually debate, should 3G wireless be included in there? And now the world has really changed. What changed the world? All of the people who are involved in the internet ecosystem. Because the internet and internet providers aren't the network providers. They're part of the internet ecosystem. But the internet ecosystem is really made up of the people who develop the equipment that allows you to build those networks, people who develop the equipment and the devices that all of us use to access the internet, the people who make the operating systems that make those devices work, and a term that really wasn't used at the beginning of CETF, the apps developers, who come up with the innovative applications that work on all of those devices. So each and every one involved in the internet ecosystem has an extremely important role and is something that we need to foster and encourage, and not foster one over the other. Another big thing we need to continue to think about is the needs of society and the changing usage, and a good example is the demands for wireless usage of the internet and these new devices is going up just multiple times each and every year. In addition to that, people who access the internet on a wired basis are using more and more bandwidth all of the time. So what that means is that if on the wireline side of our business, we actually need to continue to build bigger internet pipes just to provide the same amount of connections that we're providing today, because people are accessing YouTube and Amazon and all of the other things on the internet, and more applications have video built into them, which uses a lot more bandwidth. So we need to continually to invest in that network, otherwise you're going to get network congestion. It's even more acute on the wireless side of the business, because all of these calls and all of these data move over spectrum. And spectrum is a limited resource. It's controlled by the government, and the government allocates out, sells licenses to use the spectrum. And there's a lot of important public policy decisions that need to be made to ensure that that spectrum is available. In addition to that, you know, the government uses the spectrum itself. The biggest user of the spectrum, of course, is the military. And in the US, the Federal Communications Commission controls the spectrum. You know, most other countries in the world, it's the military who controls the allocation of spectrum in the country. So as CETF moves forward, if you keep your eye on the developments that are going on in the internet ecosystem and how all of the things in the internet ecosystem can be done, can be utilized to improve people's lives, I think that we will have even more success with CETF. Things like home security can be done over the internet now by using cameras. You can also control lights and other energy usage in your home through devices that are on the market today on a remote basis. The monitoring capabilities that you can have for people's health, whether it's a expectant mom and you now can have wireless devices that monitor her health remotely, whether it is senior parents that you can find out now through devices whether they've taken their medication, whether they are having health problems. A lot of those applications are out there and a lot of them are available. So it's not just about having the internet connection into the house, but it's what's actually done with the internet connection that is there, which is going to provide the most benefit to society. Because when you get to the end of the day, it's not about the network. It's about what the network can do for all of us who are part of society. I will say one thing that hasn't changed in CETF from the very first day is Sunny McPeak and her enthusiasm and her drive and her positive outlook. And I think under Sunny's leadership, CETF is going to continue to thrive and continue to contribute to the success of California. So thank you very much and congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. McCallion. That was lovely. That was very, very inspiring, and actually one of the ways that good, I'm going to get to Norma. One of the ways that we get to look ahead and not just in the rearview mirror is that you keep coming back to us. So you are part of that brain trust that we rely upon. I cannot ignore that Supervisor Norma Santiago from El Dorado is raising her hand. It's going to be a nice question to Tim, is it? Okay. Okay, well, we have a number of elected officials, Tim, that are between here and CSAC coming back and forth. So, Norma Santiago.
Tim, earlier we saw a slide that I thought was a little nuts, but it showed broadband speeds and how California is ahead of the nation on broadband speed, but the United States is like way, way behind on broadband speed. From other countries. I mean, and we're talking about these applications, you know, when you're talking about Holter monitors, when you're talking about telemedicine, telepsychiatry, the amount of information. You know, I want to be able to watch Netflix on my iPhone. So, you know, those, you know, the speed and these very complex applications. Can you elaborate? You talked about spectrum and you talked about some of the government issues. I made a commitment earlier here that I would be involved in changing public policy that stops or is hindering getting broadband deployment, but also bringing these technologies forward. Can you provide some insight as to why is it that here in the United States, where we have all this technology, we're falling behind the curve when it comes to broadband speed?
Sure. Did he pay you to ask that question? No, I know. This is Supervisor Santiago's own insight, but I know, Tim, you really would like to address that and talk about the challenges. And the reason I'm walking over with the resource book is to encourage all of you as leaders in the regions to look at how you can promote broadband, but particularly for counties and cities, and yes, the state of California, that we think in terms of having our economic development hat on, not just the regulatory hat, because I know these companies run into a different attitude at the desk when they're trying to pull a permit than when they're talking to the elected officials or the policymakers in a forum such as this. And what we tried to provide to you is this tool for either a policy or a policy you can put into a general plan that really sets the tone of trying to facilitate the deployment of broadband with other infrastructure and to make sure that it doesn't take them forever to make that investment in California, where they could do it a lot quicker in another state or another country. So that's what I'd like to set up in terms of you making a comment.
Thank you, Sunny. As I said, she's enthusiastic. She has that drive. Thank you, Supervisor, for the question. It actually gives me an opportunity to show off my new 4G LTE Razr. Great phone. And, you know, I've heard anecdotes, I've seen studies that other countries have faster broadband, but let me give you a fact. 18 months ago, Verizon started building a 4G LTE network here in the United States using 700 megahertz spectrum that was repurposed from television channels and freed up by the FCC. We got the opportunity to pay, I think it was $9 or $10 billion for that spectrum, and then we had to build a network. Today, Verizon has the largest 4G LTE network, not in the United States, but the largest one in the world. So we, in fact, are not behind on wireless broadband. On wired broadband, there are other countries, generally smaller countries, that do have faster speeds that are available. So thanks to, I think, some very innovative policy making that went on to free up the spectrum, the 700 megahertz spectrum, we do lead the world in wireless broadband right now. And there are other companies, our competitor companies are doing the same thing. They're building 4G LTE networks. That spectrum and that LTE network provides speeds that just a few years ago, other than with fiber optic cable, we were barely being able to provide through land-based wireline networks. So it's a real game changer. That said, despite the money that we spend, last year we spent $16.5 billion in capital investments in the top 5 of any company in the country. Matter of fact, I think it's in the top 3 of any company in the whole country in terms of capital investment. It takes a lot of capital because we have a very big country and a lot of land to cover in order to get the network out there. But we also have a lot of issues in building the network. I won't mention any specific cities, but right up here in the Bay Area, we have communities that won't allow us to put LTE antennas on existing cell towers. And in many cases, the antennas are exactly the same size as the antennas that we already have on them, but they're saying it's new technologies. And in some of these communities, the very same people who are denying us the ability to put up the cell towers will be at meetings complaining that we're behind on broadband or we don't have coverage in our particular area. And we run into that, unfortunately, a lot in California. And I think one of the reasons we run into it more in California than in other places is because of all of the valleys that we have and just the topography of the state. It's a lot easier to get cell coverage in the, we call them the flyover states here, right? The flatter states in the middle of the country, because you don't have quite as many valleys that you have to deal with, so you don't have as much blockage from all of your signals. But I know people have to be responsive to the community, but I think a lot of times people don't get the cause and effect. If you deny the ability to put new antennas on a cell tower, or if you deny the ability to put up a cell tower, you aren't going to have as good a coverage. The other issue that we run into, I think that President Peavy is familiar with this one, is we have very strict requirements at all levels of government. And to try and put a fiber optic cable on Highway 1 in Northern California is an unbelievable undertaking. You have issues with the Coastal Commission, you have issues with Caltrans. Sometimes they even say you can go ahead and do it, and then you start doing the work and they stop you. And then you clear out what the problems are, and then you have weather issues in certain times of the years. I mean, we literally have had a spool of fiber optic cable sitting outside one of our central office buildings, not very far from here up the coast, and that spool of cable's been there for 10 years, actually 12 years. And we haven't been able to clear all of the hurdles to put a fiber optic cable in a few of the counties. But I think so often people lose the relationship between, you know, not allowing us to trench along the side of, you know, in the berm along the side of a highway to put in a fiber optic cable, or not allowing a new cell tower to be built, and what the impact that that has on broadband. Now I'll tell you a good news story. When Verizon started putting Fios in California, with only one or two exceptions, we were able to work with almost every municipality where we wanted to go in and put in our fiber optic cable. So in that particular case, people saw civic leaders saw the value of having a really high-speed broadband network. Unfortunately, the communities that we had difficulties with kind of changed their mind later on, but our investment dollars had gone elsewhere, and we weren't able to go back into those communities and put the fiber optic cable in there. So Sunny has actually helped me with a number of these problems and issues that we've had over the years. She's very patient, as you know, with her work in government. She knows an awful lot of people, and she's helped us work through the problems. In some of my moments of frustration, I look at her and say, everybody talks about wanting broadband, but they don't really want it, because if they really wanted it, they would in fact allow us to plow that fiber optic cable into the ground and put those towers up. So I'm not complaining, I'm just saying that it is difficult, and it's especially difficult in California to get some of these projects done.
Thank you. Well said. Thank you. And I think you're going to have a birthday on the 8th, is that right? Yes, so we wish you a happy birthday too. Tim might be around a little bit for the reception. Certainly Kurt and Eric are going to be here. And what we want to do is move to the reception now, and you're actually going to be in a different room tomorrow. So do take your things with you. We can pick up your nameplates if you want to leave those. The reception is one floor down. There is a staircase as well as an elevator, and the staircase might be faster. It is right to, if you will, the left of the women's restroom, and you'll be going into a beautiful room that is on the southeast corner of this hotel. So down on the second floor, that corner, southeast, facing onto California Street. And then tomorrow morning, breakfast at 8, and the program begins at 8:30. Jim Kirkland will be kicking it off. And we will be downstairs tomorrow in a room right next to where the reception is tonight, on the second floor. Okay, I think we've covered everything. We're going to go have a wonderful time visiting, and we'll start the program. We're going to have a very short program, but we are going to have a little bit of a program tonight at about 7 o'clock. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.